Gaza is one of the most heavily populated spots on the planet. Its borders are sealed by Egypt and Israel. There is no sanctuary, with a tiny landmass 25 miles long and only about 5 miles wide. Israel has cut off food, fuel, water, and electricity, provoking an appalling humanitarian crisis. Joining me to discuss the crisis in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories is the Middle East scholar Norman Finkelstein. Norman has written numerous books on the Middle East, including Gaza, an inquest into its martyrdom. Let's set the stage before the October 7th attack. Israel has carried out 5 assaults against Gaza, murderous assaults, but just explain what life was like, or is like, but of course now it's changing with this, on the eve of what will be an incursion into Gaza by the IDF, but just explain what it was like to be in Gaza.
I think there are several facts that need to be known. First of all, he described Gaza as about 25 miles long, about 5 miles wide. For those of you listeners who need to envisage it, Gaza is about the length of a marathon. And its width, speaking on a personal basis, it's the distance I jog every morning at Coney Island, 5 miles. It's among the most densely populated areas in the world, beginning in 2006, after there were elections held in the West Bank and Gaza, elections that were urged upon the Palestinians by the U.S. administration. The results of the elections unexpectedly brought Hamas, or its civilian party, into power. At that moment, the Israelis, followed by the EU and the U.S., imposed a brutal blockade on Gaza. I should note that Jimmy Carter was in the occupied Palestinian territories at the time, and he pronounced the elections completely honest and fair. Now, at the level of the, let's just speak first of the blockade. With the rarest of exceptions, nobody can go into Gaza, nobody can leave Gaza. The population of Gaza consists overwhelmingly, about 70%, of refugees from the 1948 war and the descendants of those refugees. About half the population comprises children. So when you think about Gaza, you should fix in your mind, we're talking about a population that's overwhelmingly refugees and at least half children. Since the blockade was imposed on Gaza, nobody can go in, with the rarest exceptions, and nobody can leave, with the rarest exceptions. Gaza has endured, roughly, it fluctuates with time, so let's just bring it up to the present. About 50% of the population of Gaza is unemployed. 60% of the youth are unemployed. My memory is it has the highest unemployment rate of any area in the world. The other facts I would want to bring to bear on Gaza are the humanitarian crisis. The international humanitarian organizations have over time repeatedly described Gaza as suffering from, quote, severe food insecurity. Now, if you take all of these discrete facts and you try to come up with a comprehensive picture, I think it fluctuates or vacillates between 2 images or hovers between 2 images. One was the one pronounced by the UK's Conservative Prime Minister, David Cameron. He described Gaza as an open-air prison. That would be one pole of the spectrum. The other pole of the spectrum would be Baruch Kimmerling, the eminent Hebrew University sociologist, who described Gaza as, quote, the largest concentration camp ever. So I think it's fair to say that that situation has endured for approximately 20 years with variations. There was a period when Gaza wouldn't let in virtually any civilian products. Chocolate was prohibited. Potato chips were prohibited. Chicks, baby chickens, were prohibited. There was a period when Israel literally calibrated the number of calories each Gazan needed just above the starvation level, what you might call starvation plus, and didn't allow in any food beyond that starvation plus calibration. So that's been as I said, with minor fluctuations over time, that's been the situation that the people of Gaza have had to endure these past 20 years. But then you have to add in another element, and the other element is the periodic massacres Israel launches on Gaza. Now, it's been a lot more than 5, but I'll tell you the truth, Chris, I can't even remember them because there are so many that tries I made to commit them to memory. I'm unable to. So I'll limit myself to 2 of the massacres, the ones which are best known. First is Operation Cast Lead, which ran from December 26, 2008. December 26, 2008 to January 17, 2009. When Amnesty International called, in the course of the operation, it called, in a voluminous report it issued, the 22 days of death and destruction. In the course of those 22 days, Israel killed about 1,400 Palestinians, of whom 350 were children. It flattened about 6,000 homes and destroyed all of the vital infrastructure in Gaza. The cement factories, the chicken factories, targeted and flattened the vital infrastructure. Then, fast forwarding past several massacres, one was the massacre in the Mavi Marmara, the humanitarian ship that was heading towards Gaza. Then there was the massacre in Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012. And then there was in 2014, July, August 2014, there was Operation Protective Edge. And in the course of Operation Protective Edge, Israel killed about 2,200 Palestinians, 550 children, and committed such dramatic destruction in the infrastructure of Gaza, it destroyed about 18,000 homes. But beyond the 18,000 homes, Peter Maurer, who was at the time the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, he went to Gaza after the Israeli assault, and he then said, quote, that in his entire professional career, now bear in mind this is the president of the ICRC, so his job is to tour combat zones. He said in his entire professional career, he had never seen such destruction as was visited on Gaza during Operation Protected Edge. And then we'll get to one more massacre, not because it stands out in terms of numbers killed, but because it speaks to one claim that's constantly made against the people of Gaza and the Hamas leadership. So in 2018, I think it was March 31st it began, but I could be wrong. I think it was March 31st. In 2018, the Palestinians despairing, the Palestinians in Gaza despairing, but also responsive to the exhortations of the international community, the Palestinians attempted a nonviolent, Gandhi-like, civil rights movement-like resistance in Gaza, what came to be called the Great March of Return. And Palestinians overwhelmingly, nonviolently, now I'm referring to the first 6 weeks, because a major massacre occurred, Israel committed a major massacre on May 14th, and that changed the character of that nonviolent resistance. So what did the Palestinians, who attempted to follow the exhortations of the international community to try nonviolence, what was the result of it? Well, there was several human rights reports. The most exhaustive was carried out by a distinguished committee commissioned by the United Nations. I think it was the Human Rights Council. And it found that, and now I'm quoting it pretty much verbatim, although I've not looked at it in quite a while, Israel targeted, remember we're talking about nonviolent demonstrators, it targeted children, it targeted medical personnel, it targeted journalists, and it targeted disabled people, Palestinians who were in wheelchairs and suffering from other kinds of physical disabilities. And not surprisingly, in particular, after the massacre on May 14th, 2018, the nonviolence quickly, though not entirely, but quickly petered out. So we fast forward till today, or till October 7th. I think the fair thing to say, not engaging in hyperbole or exaggeration, and I try not to because I think the truth speaks for itself, the Palestinians in Gaza were left there to languish and die.